Welcome back to Why We Nurse. I'm your host, Serena Tobar, and today's episode is about possibility. What happens when someone starts at the bedside, keeps saying yes to growth? My guest today is Winston Meikle, whose healthcare journey began as a certified nursing assistant and has evolved into serving as the chief operating officer of a mobile lab company. Along the way, he's also become a published author, writing two books that reflect leadership, resilience, and building something meaningful from the ground up. The conversation is about career mobility, leadership, forgetting your roots, and what it means to create impact far beyond where you started. Winston, welcome to Why We Nurse.
Good afternoon, Serena. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be talking with you and addressing you and your audience.
Yes, so let's start at the beginning. You began your healthcare career as a CNA. What drew you into that role?
Well, actually, I started my last year in high school, and I was interested in pursuing a career in medicine at the time. And I asked my guidance counselor, "What do we have offered in the school that would help prepare me for a journey in medicine?" And he made me a program that was offered to students for an LPN program that was it was a vocational school adjunct. It was a vocational school that was associated with the high school that I would come to school in the morning and then get on another bus that would take me to the vocational school for part of the day. And I would take my nursing education there and go back to school and finish my day at the high school. And he told me if I completed that successfully, that there was another part, the 7 months part that came afterwards, that if I completed that, I would be a licensed practical nurse at the end of that journey. So I said yes, and I pursued that. I became an LPN at 18 years old, and that's where my career really started after being a CNA, a home health aide. I did the home health aide part while I was in school for LPN, just to supplement income and keep me going while I was pursuing that after high school.
Okay, awesome. Now, did you ever imagine back then that you would one day be in an executive role?
I guess not really, you know what I mean? But I always had the idea of a natural progression of a career, that there would be some growth to leadership, and I always had a bit of leadership in me, as I was always had a desire to help others and to teach others and help others to be better in what they're doing. So it was almost an apparent natural progression, I was thinking.
So, your career trajectory is powerful from hands on care to leadership. So, talk to us a little bit about how did that transition happen?
As I said, a natural progression. I built my career through building skills. I wanted to be skilled. I wanted to have different skills. I wanted to be able to do everything that anyone else was doing. So I kind of pursued all the skills. I was a member of the first ever IB team for Jamaica Hospital in Jamaica, Queens, while I was pursuing my first RN license. And I did that overnight, and I developed skills there for venipuncture and IV insertions. And after graduating from my first associate degree RN class program, I took those skills to the first job that I had as an RN, and I taught there. I created the first IB team for North General Hospital in Upper New York, and I taught them how to formulate a team, how to charge for the services, and I trained the first four members of their team. And that job was I went directly from school right into their ICU. It was a mixed use ICU, and I just wanted to pursue critical care because of its technical nature and all the things that came along with it, all the critical thinking and the hands-on physician work. It inspired me. I wanted to be great at what I did, so I fell right into critical care.
That sounds very exciting. And your career trajectory has been somewhat similar to mine because when I was LVN school, so in Texas here we call them LVNs, it's the same thing as an LPN, just a different acronym. But going to school to be a licensed vocational nurse, I was an EMT. So somewhat similar, but yeah, that's how I was able to pay the bills because then I could work on the weekends because our program was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, included our clinical and everything. When shifts were 8 hours. time ago. Yes, so very similar trajectory. Yours a little bit different, but exciting to meet people along the way who've also kind of taken the I call it the scenic route.
Yes, yeah, I stopped at every stop, at every level.
I definitely tell people I've taken the scenic route to where I am now, but I got here.
Yes, I agree. And I understand the concept because I stopped at from a home health aide to LPN to associate degree RN to a bachelor degree RN to a master degree RN, and I had to stop along every step along the way.
Yes. Did you face any barriers or any self-doubt along that way?
No, not really. I don't look for barriers. I look for solutions. That's what I always tell my friends. And I said, I don't see problems. I see solutions. I look past problems for their solutions. So whatever barriers or difficulties I may have faced, I just moved forward. I just pushed through. While I was getting my associate degree, it was an all-day program as well. It was an 8 hours, 5 days a week program, and I worked all night as an LPN. So I was working all night and then going to school all day, which left very little time for the rest of my life. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges, along my career. But I had some help. I had a classmate who was very, very supportive of me. He would pick me up from work and drive me to school and drive me home every day. And he helped me to succeed through that program. So very grateful to my friend, Mr. Brown.
That's awesome. I think that's really important too because I've also had friends along the way in each program that I was in my LVN, ADN, BSN program. And it's really important to cultivate those and those partnerships because we were able to help each other path and get where we wanted to get and meet our goals. And I still stay in contact with many of those people even to this day because they meant a lot to me in helping me reach my goals.
Yes, those relationships matter. But, no man is an island, and when you have supportive people in your circle like that, it does help you move along.
Yes, and your story really challenges the idea that there is one right path in healthcare. So let's talk about your current role. As the COO of a mobile lab company, your work impacts access, efficiency, and patient experience in a big way. So, for our listeners who may not be familiar, what does a mobile lab company do?
Okay, well, this is a brainchild of mine. In my long career, many years back, there's been conversation about decentralizing services. You've heard that all along that the industry wants to move patient services out of the hospital setting and bringing it more into the community. And I took that to heart. And I saw that as the future. I saw that as an opportunity. So I started thinking about ways that I could manifest that. And I thought of what services that I could provide easily and efficiently. And the mobile clinical diagnosis is what I came up with. A mobile clinical diagnostic services organization where we provide services in four divisions. One is your specimen collections of phlebotomy for clinical labs. The next is mobile radiology services. The next is the DNA and molecular diagnostics, which is your paternity and your pandemic pathogen testing. It was big during COVID. And the last is drug and alcohol testing for DOT compliance. And I just formed a company and started working and just build and developed it that way, just providing services the best way I can. Skills that I developed, the venipuncture and IV insertion piece helped along the phlebotomy and specimen collections part. So that was the major part of the business in the beginning to get us going and kept us afloat because I had those skills and now I have others working for me in that capacity.
That sounds amazing. So, do you like go to people's homes and collect these specimens, or do you like set up somewhere?
Yes, well, both. We do we participate in health fairs and educational programs, but the core of our services are services brought to patients' homes, offices, or business, places of business, wherever they. We have two models for the company. We have two models. We have one for the patients and one for the providers. Our model for the patients is bringing the diagnostic services you need to the locations that you want. And the second one for providers is don't send your patients to the lab, send the labs to your patients. Now, just consider what is a more convenient way of getting your lab work done than in your own kitchen or on your own couch, in your office where you don't have to travel. This business serves the fast growing senior population who experience mobility problems, mobility issues for whatever reason. But just consider someone who has a mobility impairment that uses a wheelchair to get around. In the wintertime, we're here in New Jersey, northern Jersey, so we experience pretty harsh winters. So getting out and getting to the lab poses quite a challenge, you know, not just for the patient, but for their families who have to assist them to getting to these locations. Getting them dressed, putting them in a wheelchair, ramp access, snow on the ground problems, slip and fall concerns, all those things we eliminate with our services by bringing the services to the patients in their most comfortable setting.
Well, that's amazing. I'm just thinking about even a senior, have mobility issues, like just to go to the lab here in Texas and specifically in Houston, we have one of the largest medical centers in the world. But you have to park in a garage, you have to cross the street, you have to pay to park in that garage, and then
And then the wait.
you have to wait and hungry. There's lots of barriers for people to get their lab work done. So this sounds really amazing and an amazing way to meet some of those barriers.
That's one of the things we're proud of. We're helping a lot of people. We have homebound, bedbound, and mobility impaired, busy moms, people who's just the coordination of timing that we offer them provides convenience for them with regards to their time management. So it's a lot of reasons why it's beneficial to people that we're pretty proud of.
Well, that's really cool. And then, so I guess my next question is, doctor refer the patient to your services, or can the patient call you and say, "Hey, my doctor ordered some labs. Can you come to my home and draw those?"
We have both. We started out primarily by using my physician contacts, the doctors that I know that practice in home care, geriatrics, endocrinology, take referrals from them for their patients who have problems getting to the office for whatever reason. They refer them to us and we schedule them and go out and see them. Then again, we do have a Google My Business page where we'll be able to be found through Google search by mobile labs near me, mobile phlebotomists near me, mobile phlebotomists in my area, and people call and reach out to us with their prescriptions from their providers, and we'll schedule them and see them as well.
Well, that's really cool. I like that. I wish I had something like that close to me.
Just to
Let's
get it to you somehow at some time in the near future, I hope to franchise this opportunity to others in different metropolitan areas where it's, potential.
That would be amazing. Definitely. Flip the script a little bit. So, you've talked to me about some books that you've written, which incredible journey. So, what inspired you to write your first book?
Okay, now that's a very good story, I think. Along the way, along my journey, I guess it started before my nursing career journey. Even though I was a nurse my entire adult life. It started when I was a young man and supporting my younger brother in his athletic endeavors. I identified that people who were successful in athletics had a certain level of confidence, that they believed in their outcomes before they even pursued the desired outcome. They believed that they were going to be successful before they happened. And we called it confidence factor. And I tried to instill that into my little brother. And we coined that phrase, confidence factor, and we worked with that throughout our development. And then at the bedside, I would observe phenomena taking place in patient care scenarios that defied conventional wisdom, defied conventional explanations of current scientific models. And I just made mental notes of them. I'm like, okay, wow, that's interesting, or wow, that's a coincidence, or that's an interesting happenstance, and I just compiled these incidences over time, and it started to sound to me like that there was more significance to these phenomena piling up than conventional wisdom explained. And then I learned about quantum physics and the quantum physics double slit experiment and the different scientific experiments that spoke to other explanations, and I saw them as potential foundations to these phenomena that I was seeing. So I said to my colleagues, I'm going to write a theory about this, and I'm going to apply it to nursing. I'm going to put this all together and see if we can apply it to how we practice nursing to create better outcomes. Because over the years, and you probably can attest to this as well, that there have been circumstances and occurrences in your patient encounters that say, wow, that was a small miracle. Wow, that was quite a coincidence. Wow, that's a quite a, I don't know, unexplained happenstance. Many nurses will have these anecdotal experiences that they refer to and say, that was a really weird thing that happened, and I felt that those experiences were phenomena coming out of the quantum physics world that we were experiencing incidentally. And then after learning how these principles work, I said maybe we should start trying to use them purposefully. Instead of letting them happen, we should be using them to make these things happen so we can create better outcomes through intention, through love, through focused energy. And that was the impetus of putting the book together. Putting all those things together, along with the scientific principles that support them, and presenting it in how you say it, a tool to use this energies, these potentials as a method to create better outcomes for patients.
That is it's me at quantum physics because that's like way above my head. I mean, that sounds really interesting, and I will agree. Yes, I have had those experiences where things have happened that you just really can't explain. And I think we've all had those experiences in nursing at some point. And so that's really interesting that you were able to key in on that and put those things together and the things that you were seeing, sports and other things, and saying, how can we use this to intentionally build our nursing staff and build their thinking and build their interactions with patients. So that's really interesting. So what's the name of this book?
This book is called The Power of Love, A Nursing Theory. When Science Meets Spirit, a new kind of nurse is born.
So this we find this book because I definitely want to get my hands on it.
Okay, you can come to my author's website, which is poweroflovetheory.com. Theory.com. And there you'll be able to find different links where you can purchase it through Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Books By, and Ingram Spark. And it is offered internationally as well.
Very interesting. And you've just finished another book, right?
Yes.
And what's this one about?
Okay, see, this first book is a nursing theory that is written and speaking directly to healthcare providers, nurses primarily, but anyone who's involved in direct patient care interactions is what the first book focuses on. The second book focuses on talking to the rest of the public, the general public, the recipients of healthcare services, how they can wield these powers for themselves in creating better outcomes for themselves, taking a more purposeful approach to their healthcare experience. A lot of times patients enter into the healthcare setting and they lose all agency. They just lose sense of self and control, and they just relegate their situation to the healthcare professionals and don't manage it from a purposeful perspective. So I'm giving people the tools to be better patients, to be better healthcare consumers, using the same principles that have been written into the book for professionals. I'm writing a book for the public of healthcare.
Well, I really like that because was just conversation earlier about how I have been on the other side of healthcare. I found myself there a little bit too much recently, but I have found myself as the family member and a discussion about how hard I've had to advocate for safe and appropriate care for my family member, being somebody who has been a nurse for as long as I have, who understands the healthcare system, who understands how things work and what should be happening versus what is happening. I immediately went to the thought of what about people who don't? What about those family members and those patients? They don't have that healthcare literacy. They don't have somebody who has resources and access to healthcare professionals where I can say, "Can I get your second opinion on this? Do you think this is right?" I have that easy access where I can text somebody and say, "Can you give me your opinion on this?" Other people don't have that access. So, what happens to them in this healthcare system that I consider broken?
This is I'm glad you said that because it's hard for me to express that in settings like this because it's quite controversial when you think about it. You know, we're members of the industry, and then because of our experiences, that we what I say, and I coined the phrase, we work inside the belly of the beast. We see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we know what should be happening, and we see what does happen. That is an inspiration for me writing the public facing version of this book to help people. You know, a lot of it is talking to patients and their families from the insider perspective, where we talk to them like a provider, a practitioner who knows what's supposed to happen. Like we take them into a quiet room, say, this is what's supposed to happen. This is the questions to ask. This is how you engage with this procedure. This is your part in the procedure. This is what you should expect from the providers. This is your role in your recovery. And that's another thing I say to my patients quite often. Your recovery is not something that happens to you. It's something that you do. You have to be participating in your recovery to create the best possible outcomes for yourself. It's not a passive endeavor, it's a very active endeavor. You don't wait for it to happen, you make it happen.
Very much true. And so, what is the name of this book?
Power of Love, oh, shoot. Not completely, this book is not completed yet, just in the editing stage. Um, The Path to Self-Healing and Wellness.
Okay, so The Power of
Oh,
Love.
it's still a Power of Love book because I find love as an underlying force in the universe that guides all things that are good energetically. So it's a Power of Love series of books. And after this book, there's gonna be a parenting book and then a series of children's books.
I love it. I love it. And when do you anticipate that this book might be ready
It's gonna
for?
be ready by end of June, early July.
Okay, awesome. So our listeners can expect that probably in the same places as your nursing theory book, correct?
Yes, it's gonna be on the author's website.
Very good. So we've talked about your books and we've talked about your business. I'm excited and so happy that you shared your story with us, Winston. Anything you want our to know about you?
Just that love is the foundation to all good things. And if you approach things from a loving perspective, how you say, no matter what you're experiencing, the most loving response will always be the best response. Just keep that in mind always, and that you have more power than you understand. Your mind, your thoughts, your intentions. When you receive a bad diagnosis, something that's scary, creates fear, your response to that diagnosis is more important than the diagnosis itself. How you respond to it and what approaches you take in response to getting that news is a greater determinant of the eventual outcome than the diagnosis itself.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story today. Me from CNA to COO and from caregiver to author reminds us that healthcare careers are not linear and leadership can come from anywhere. To our listeners, no matter where you're starting, at the bedside, in school, or in a new role, your path is valid. Growth happens one step, one decision, and one act of courage at a time. Follow at Why We Nurse on Instagram and Facebook for more conversations like this. And if you have a story to share or want to be a guest, email whywenursepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember why you nurse.